Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for being here. Now, you've said that this bill is dead on arrival in the House. Here's how Senator Langford reacted to your comments on Fox and Friends. Watch.
Unfortunately, that he would step out and be able to say that right away before, obviously, he had had a chance to be able to read it as well and to be able to go through it. Now we've got to actually determine, are we going to just complain about things, or are we going to actually address and to change as many things as we can?
Mr. Speaker, you know nothing about what's in the bill 12 hours or 15 hours after it passed.
We did read through it, Laura, and it did not take long to realize that this is dead on arrival. There's no way we could bring this through the House. The Senate expects us to pass a bill, a piece of legislation that you just did a great job dismantling here. What it would do is actually further incentivize illegal immigration. It would not resolve any of the problems, not reform in any meaningful way the broken asylum system, the broken parole process, and all the things that have created this catastrophe. And by the way, meanwhile, it further empowers the very cabinet secretary who designed and created this mess. They don't follow federal law. Why would we do this anyway? But the bill itself would actually do more harm than good, and that's why we've said it's a non-starter over here in the House.
Senator Schumer, you're very popular these days, so he also had a message for you. Watch.
I say to Speaker Johnson, don't let the 30 hard right people in the House who are extreme, they wanted us to default, they wanted the government not to pay its debts, they wanted us, the government to shut down. They're extremists, and they're running your show. Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. Because it's good to give waiver discretion to Biden and Mayorkas so they can just waive the emergency anytime they feel like it.
Here's my message to Senator Schumer. The American people are running the show here. We're the representatives of our constituents. The American people are on our side. They recognize this catastrophe has been disastrous for the country. Every state is a border state, and everybody knows it. I've been traveling the country, Laura, since I became Speaker of the House. I've been in 15 different states doing events. It doesn't matter whether I'm out west, in the Midwest, on Long Island, the Deep South, South Florida. The message is the same. It's the number one issue on the hearts and minds of the American people. We have to solve this crisis. And I'm going to make this point again, because Senator Schumer isn't listening, apparently. The President of the United States has the authority right now to fix this crisis. He has broad executive authority under the federal statutes, and Chuck Schumer knows it, and President Biden knows it, and they refuse to use that. They could stop this. They could stop the flow immediately, but they don't want to, Laura, and I think you alluded to a few moments ago exactly why that is.
Mr. Speaker, Axios reported that if the Senate manages to pass this sweeping national security package and the House passes the Israel-only bill, they could head to what is called a conference committee in an attempt to reconcile the differences, according to one House Republican. And that translation here for people watching is that McConnell could try to get his open borders measure through a conference committee. How will you prevent that maneuver from happening?
We're going to use every tool in our arsenal to ensure that that does not happen. And by the way, in the last half hour, President Biden came out and said that he would actually veto the legislation, the clean funding bill, to help our ally Israel at its time of greatest need. Israel is at war. They're fighting for their very existence. And the president has our troops in harm's way now because of the deterrence effort against Iran. And he is suggesting that he would not send the funding to abandon our ally right now. That is outrageous. I mean, everybody who is watching this is scratching their heads wondering how in the world we've gotten into this situation. This president is projecting weakness on the world stage. He is not willing to fix the greatest crisis facing our country, which is the open border. And they're just shown a staggering level of leadership that I think the American people are going to let their voices heard at the lack of leadership. They're going to let their voices heard at the election cycle. That's why his polling is so low. The people see what's happening here.
Why do you think that Langford and Schumer and McConnell and all of them, why don't they go back to their hometowns and their states and have town halls on this, Mr. Speaker? What do you think the people would say? Go through the specifics, how many people would still be able to come in, the thresholds, the discretion, all of that, and let the people voice their opinions. Do you expect that to happen?
I can tell you what happened in a town hall anywhere in the country right now. People know the numbers. The official number, of course, is over 7 million people who have been encountered at the border, over 2 million gotaways that are known, over 300 people on the terrorist watch list that have been allowed into the country or stopped there. But we don't know how many people have actually come over. We don't know what terrorist cells are set up around the country. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death
But they say this
for Americans
solves
aged 18
that.
to 49.
But they say this solves that, Mr. Speaker. They want to sell this political message to try to undercut Trump and hurt you, that this is going to be solved or seriously ameliorated, the crisis, because of this. They all have to come through the ports of entry now and all the other provisions I went through. And your response?
Well, you've done a good job explaining the real details of what this actually would accomplish. And in our view, it's an immigration bill, not a border security bill. We have to secure that border. We have an obligation to do it. It's a moral obligation. It's a legal and constitutional obligation. And the White House has done this by design. They intentionally enacted these policies. Remember, we documented over 64 instances where the president himself and his agencies have used executive authority to create the current situation, to create the catastrophe. He could unwind those right now, the stroke of a pen. President Biden could fix this, but he does not want to do it. And I think there's going to be a price to pay at the election.
The Border Patrol Union has come out and said the bill is better than the status quo. Does that affect your thinking on this?
Well, I think it does have something to do with the pay structure that's in the bill. I understand that they're desperate for measures that will assist, okay? But look, we took 64 Republicans down to the Del Rio sector down at Eagle Pass in early January, and they told us from their own perspective there, it's as if we're administering an open fire hydrant. We don't need more buckets. We need to stop the flow. We know how to do that. The president has the existing authority under the statutes, and he ought to use it. He could suspend all entries into the country if he deems it to be in the nation's interest. That's exactly what the statute says. Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Everybody should Google it and read it for themselves. The president claims he doesn't have that authority. Even though it's been used so many times over the last couple of decades by previous presidents, he pretends it doesn't exist. It's not an excuse that is palatable for the American people, and they'll see right through this.
Mr. Speaker, are you going to be able to stop this bill?
We're going to do everything within our power. When I say it's dead on arrival, I mean dead on arrival. We're going to have to work this every other angle that we can and ensure that we're taking care of our responsibilities here. The House Republicans are dug in and ready to do that.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.